everyone, and welcome back to my sewing room. I'm Rebecca, and a couple weeks ago I shared with you a project of a quick and easy reticule that you can use for Regency, for Victorian, and I went over all of the steps on how to make that reticule. You can click here for that link, and I will also link it below in the description. But today I wanted to show you how, if you have an embroidery machine, you can take that reticule pattern and you can embellish it. Now, you do have to do the embellishment, the embroidery, before you assemble the reticule, but I wanted to show you how in just really a few minutes, maybe about an extra 20 minutes, you can take that reticule and make it an embroidered reticule. So let's jump into the project. First, trace around your reticule pattern on your exterior fabric on the side or sides that you plan to embroider on. I have made an embroidered reticule before from this pattern, and I want my embroidery to be in approximately the same space. I'm laying the existing reticule on top of the piece and marking where the top and bottom should be. However, if you haven't made a reticule before, you can really just eyeball this. Then take your pattern and draw a line down the center using a removable marking implement like a friction pen, or in this case, a Choco liner. Next, we're going to position our fabric and our stabilizer in the hoop with the markings we've just made in the center of the hoop. I am just using a simple tearaway stabilizer, and I have cut my piece of stabilizer to just larger than my hoop. Make sure your stabilizer is smooth with no creases or wrinkles, and then lay your fabric down on top with that marking centered nicely in the hoop. Notice I have not actually cut my fashion fabric. Once you have your fabric centered in your hoop, press down the top hoop, and once you have tightened your screw a little bit, gently tug on the sides of your fabric to make sure everything is nice and taut within the hoop. Make sure to tug on opposite sides at the same time so that you don't wind up warping the weave of the fabric as you are straightening it into the hoop. Tighten your hoop with your screwdriver to make sure that everything stays nice and taut while you're embroidering. Now we're ready to embroider. This is a Brother Quattro 3 machine. Slide your hoop into the embroidery machine and make sure to smooth out all of the fabric and stabilizer around the hoop so that nothing is caught underneath. And thread your machine if you have not already done so. I have already brought up the pattern that I want to be embroidered, which in this case is a small floral wreath with a name inside of it. Now we are going to ask the machine to scan what it sees in the hoop. This is my absolute favorite feature on this machine. It is actually taking a whole series of pictures of what it sees inside the hoop as it moves around, and it will assemble those small images into one larger image on the screen of the machine so that we can see exactly where we're going to position our pattern based on those chalk markings that we had made previously for top, bottom, and center of the pattern. This is what it now looks like, and we can faintly see those top and bottom markings and the line down the center. Because our reticule is actually upside down in the hoop, we need to rotate this design 180 degrees. I did a pretty good job centering my fabric within the hoop, but I will use my arrow buttons to adjust it just slightly. If I had not done this good of a job, I could also use the rotate feature to slightly rotate this pattern to make it in line with the reticule. Next, I'm going to save this finished design to my machine because just in case something were to interrupt the embroidery, I want the machine to remember where everything needs to go in the hoop. I thought I had recorded this clip, but apparently not. So I've embroidered the first bit, and now we're going to change colors. One product that I highly recommend is this clear tape to help your threads stay in place. It's reusable, amazing tape, and it really is fantastic. I've had this spool for ages and ages, and I just use little strips of it to keep my threads on the spools, because a lot of the embroidery thread spools don't actually have a thing that holds the end of the thread in place. Let's go ahead and thread up the machine with the second color and get started on the second color. I run my machine at the medium speed setting because I tend to find that if I run it at the very fastest setting, the thread tends to fray fairly easily. I have not sped up the video in case you were curious about seeing how the machine runs at its normal speed. This reticule was made for my friend Emily's birthday. This video was filmed over 2 months ago because her birthday was right around the time when everything started to shut down, and so I did not get to give this reticule to her until yesterday, May 23rd. And so this video is coming out significantly long after it was actually filmed. But it was very nice to finally see her 6 feet apart for the first time in over 2 months. This embroidery, by the way, was about 5.5 inches tall and 5 inches wide, and the total stitch out time was about 14 minutes. And just like that, we're done. Now that the embroidery is done, we can remove it from the hoop. Then we want to tear away the stabilizer. I always tear away the large piece, and I try to tear away any of the slightly larger pieces that are within the body of the design as well. I don't worry too much about the very small pieces still stuck within. Next, iron your design flat. Be careful that your iron is not on too hot of a setting, because depending on the type of thread you use, it is possible to actually melt your thread if your iron is too hot. So I recommend setting it no higher than about a wool setting. And there is our finished design. How cute is that? Now that we have completed the embroidered portion of the reticule, you can jump back over to that original reticule video to watch the rest of the tutorial if you haven't seen that already. But I hope that this embroidered tutorial was helpful for you for today. Once you have assembled the whole reticule, it's going to look something like this. In this case, this is a reticule for one of my friends for her birthday, and I decided to put her name on it with some little floral, as you saw when we were stitching it out, and voila! It turns itself into a nice little reticule and a great little gift that you can really easily make in just about an hour or so for a friend, or of course for yourself. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful for you, and I would love to see any of the embroidered reticules that you wind up coming up with, or non-embroidered reticules, especially for those of you that don't have an embroidery machine. So please, if you do make one, please post it on Instagram and tag me at Lady Rebecca Fashions. You can also follow me on Instagram if you're not doing so already. And of course, if you did like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon so that I know you liked it. And if you want to see more videos from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time that I post a new video. Alright, well that's it for me for this week. I'll see you next week, and in the meantime, happy sewing!